David, we were just talking offline, and I said, I'm supposed to travel this weekend, and as I've thought about it, I just got back a couple of weeks ago, and just with everything going on, you've got federal government shutdown, you got a No Kings protest 2.0, I think that's what they're calling it this weekend, and international things are happening, but also what's happening in the precious metal space right now. I don't think the masses, and you correct me here, I don't think the masses understand what is happening in that space. Do you?
Oh, Michael, first of all, thanks for inviting me. It's great to be with you, and I like your flag in the background. I would say you're correct. I don't think it's kind of like the movie The Matrix, If something's, bothered you your whole life. You don't know what it is, but it's there. I think there's kind of this pervasive everywhere for everyone feeling that something is right, and they're trying to find an answer. It's the other group, it's the other political party, it's who's in office. But really, the breakdown comes from the old adage for a good journalist is if you want to know what's really going on, follow the money. Well, if you follow the money down the yellow brick road, you find at the end the money masters that are controlling everything like a bunch of puppeteers, and it's from the top down. They're controlling the political class, they're controlling the corporate class, which are in bed with them, and that means basically we're under their domain, regardless of our political slant. So we're distracted by it's red or it's blue or it's up or it's down or it's whatever. When the reality is it's a much higher plane than that that is taking control of our whole outlook, and we're seeking answers in probably the wrong places.
Well, and everything's a good guy.
But
Good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yes, I'm sorry. The final statement is that distraction's deliberate.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike. Well, everything is, good guys, bad guys, right? It's
Right.
a superhero movie. I keep saying, I've been saying the same lines, but I can't get it out of my head because people will reach out to me about, Tulsi Gabbard or this or that, or it's like, we are not in a Jack Ryan movie here. I mean, it shows my age because young people don't know Jack, the Harrison Ford Patriot games, Jason Bourne,
Yeah.
maybe a better modern day analogy,
Yeah.
but that's what they want us to feel.
Well, absolutely. I'll go to one of my many sayings, and I call it the Big Daddy syndrome. But I heard this years ago, and it's like you've reached adulthood when you realize that the cavalry is not coming to the rescue. And that's where we are. But people still want the cavalry to show up and take care of the problem. It's not going to happen.
I had I'm from Ohio originally, and Vivek Ramaswamy is running for governor there next year. And I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and said, yeah, I'm curious what he will do with, property tax. I think property taxes or something Vivek is running on. And I said, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. Nothing, because that's what always happens with all this stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of talk and no action. And, I think they laugh behind our backs. It's the red blue, you know, metaphor when really they're all pretty much all in bed together. Yeah, there are disagreements and yes, there are changes, but it's very subtle and almost meaningless for us. They've got the power, they've got the control. And, I mean, I've said for years, I dropped out of the political system years ago because I don't trust either side. And then I'm making that big a difference. I mean, if you ever watched the movie Thrive, which shows like the pyramid of power, you'll find that we are the lowest on the planet. You, me, the plants, and the animals. But the next level up is the political class, which everyone thinks is on top of the pyramid. No, they're the bottom of the pyramid. They're as low as you could get, except for us. They're a little above us. The next one up is the corporate matrix. It's the AT&Ts, the IBMs, the 3Ms, all the corporate status. And that goes back, and I know you're probably old enough to remember the movie Network. And in that movie, that journalist goes on a rant and says there is no China, there's no USA, there's only corporate, the corporate world, the 3Ms, the ATTs, the IBMs. That's what runs everything. And it's true. And corporatocracy is really fascism. And people, oh, we're getting fascism. Getting it? Are you kidding me? We've had it for a very long time. It's just that their grip over us has become more obvious to the layperson that really doesn't understand how that down pyramidal structure works on a hierarchy, and that the political class has very little power. Who writes the laws that get enacted overnight? You think the Patriot Act got dreamed up and written in 2 days? Are you kidding me? Some lobbyist or lobbyists had that thing all ready to go. And, oh, hey, guess what? Just in time inventory, sign this. I mean, as Congress critters don't even read it. I mean, you talk about a broken system. I'm sorry, you pushed my hot button, but we are really in a broken society, and it's not just the U.S. of A. It's everywhere.
And in my view, it can't be salvaged at this point in its current structure.
I I I agree with you. First of all, I mean, my personal is that idealistic side of myself wants to think maybe I'm missing something. It could be, but in my soul searching, darkest, deepest moments, I can't figure it out how that could happen. So I'm with you. I don't think it can be, but again, I like to think there could be a way.
Well, and people will probably, I'm sure you get labeled this like I have, that you don't bring anything positive, there's no solutions. I said, well, there are solutions, but this whole idea of, to your point, Calvary coming to save you, that's just not realistic. And it is what it is where we're at. But as individuals, and to your credit, what you do for your work and what people can do to protect themselves and gain somewhat of insurance of the uncertainty, or pardon my language, the fuckery. I quote my friend Jim Kunstler, of what's going on. And I think you're seeing that right now with what's happening in precious metals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for example, not to go into my, personal life too deeply, but I mean, I get asked to help others, and I like to, and I do. But when I write those checks or put my card on their form and it's going to, the mission or whatever, I try my best to do an evaluation of how much of that's really going to who needs it. But I mean, one of the places I go for my men's group is in, let's say, one of the most undesirable sides of town. When I hand a 20 to a guy, whether he's going to get drunk or not, really is none of my business. If I give it to him, he's going to do, or she's going to do what they're going to do. But I know that's a direct response. There's no middleman. There's no government taking a fee. There's no one, whatever, or working on the, in the food line, food kitchen, and dishing out soup to people that are really having a tough time, be it drug problem, mental issues, or whatever. The point being is that the Calvary's there when you get a middleman involved or whatever. Well, I don't want to do it. It's too ugly. And it's much more just to take our most valuable resource, Michael. What's it? It's time. So if I'm going to give, 3 hours a week to work at the mission to help, set up and take down, that is a real contribution rather than, writing a check could help, obviously, but and we don't have that. We don't have any, I mean, I'm going to digress and give it back to you, but some of these incidents on, pick your place, the subway or on the street or in a bus or whatever, and people just watch someone getting hurt or whatever rather than, jump in there or something. And, that's bizarre. I mean, there was a little film clip done of that. I forget the name of it, but like, what's wrong with us? We're so locked into our black screen that everything is a metaphor for reality. No, that's reality. That person's getting hurt. Scream, yell, call the cops, kick them, throw a rock at them, do something. But again, I digress. I'll give it back. But I'm really upset today from the aspect of judging myself, that sometimes I think, God, what could I have done different? What could I have done more? Didn't I say it right? Why didn't I get through to people and all that? But I can't run their lives. All I can do is speak, the ultimate truth to the best of my understanding. And then there's, personality involved in it, but I try to keep it on principles only. And the principles are we need to trust each other. We need to work together. We need to understand that the fixers fixed us in the wrong way. We need to fix each other. It's us against them in a way. There is no cavalry. And if there is one, it's a political group against another political group to contain their control.
Well, there's definitely or not definitely, but it appears that there's I think, a civil war happening on the elite level right now. And but the people, the low people like myself, you're going to end up in the same place no matter who's in charge. And I don't know what direction it's going to head in this battle of elites, but I think we're just taking a different path to get to the same place. So let me ask you, what is for regular people that don't understand what's going on in the precious metal space right now, what is happening and why with silver and gold? But start off with silver, if you don't mind.
Sure. I made some notes here, so let me see.
I've got Eric Young coming on tomorrow. I saw you just reshared him earlier today.
Yeah, yeah, Eric's consider him a friend. I've only spoken to him, I guess, once, but I feel like I spoke to because I do direct messages with him on Twitter fairly often. So London is in a tight spot. The London markets prices are up a couple bucks premium over what the COMEX is. It's technically not backwardation, but it is a differential. We call it arbitrage. The lease rates for silver are blowing out. I mean, intraday extremes were like over 11%. It may be different than that now, and it's 1% in the normal world. So it's like a tenfold above what is consistently a lease rate. And the COMEX is fairly flush right now. There's like 525 million ounces. That's near a record of total inventory. Some of that is called eligible, which can't really be touched. But there's something like 174 million ounces of registered, which is readily available to be sold and shipped, wherever. So that's being pulled out of New York and shipped over or flown over to London. The problem is we don't know what amount of physical silver is required for the London market to clear. In other words, is it 10 million ounces of fine silver, or 20 million, or is it 2 million ounces? I don't know what the number is. Someone there probably does. So until that market clears, the market's pretty much frozen. And the reason it's frozen is because you can't hedge. And if you can't hedge, you have too much risk. So if you don't have an ability to hedge, the spreads between the buy and ask, the buy and sell, get very, very wide. And even in those cases, some people won't take even that risk because it's just too much of an indeterminable calculation because no one knows. So right now we're kind of locked up. I mean, a lot of our peer group are saying there isn't any silver available, it's gone, and all that. None of that's true. It's a very, unknown. There's so much uncertainty that people are just staying away. They're just closing their door and not taking any orders, buy or sell, until things come back to quote unquote normal. And that looks like it's only going to come back when this London market situation gets resolved.
How soon do you see that rectifying itself?
Yeah, no one knows. So I'll be clear on that. From all my years in the industry, which gives me experience, but no super insights, I'm thinking maybe 2 weeks at the most. But if these people that are at the London Bullion Market Association have, hypothecated and rehypothecated, and they got a pool of them working together, and in that pool of these banksters cannot cough up enough physical silver and they have to import a great quantity of it, it's going to take time. My gut feel is, again, it will probably not take that long and it will resolve. The problem, the way I see it, is that we've kind of made that line in the sand, meaning that now anyone that's in the silver market, even at a tertiary level, understands that this system can be broken. And right now it is quote unquote broken. It's not functioning normally at all. And so if we go back and get this thing to clear, and we go back to normal lease rates, and the contango comes back, and everything's back to the way it was, a month ago, doesn't mean it could continue like that indefinitely. In fact, we already have proof that it can stall out or break, and that is kind of be an overhang. In that case, what could, or I'll say even should take place, is that the leveraged players in the system, which is primarily the bullion banks, back off, and they don't sell, a year's worth of silver in one day, on paper. That they mitigate the issue by being more prudent with the ratio between what's on paper and what really exists, so they don't get put in this position again. But knowing how these guys think, that statement is kind of doubtful. We'll see.
I guess where I'm confused. So is confidence in the silver market now? Is it lessened? And what will happen if this isn't resolved with the masses of regular people that are like have no idea of any of this, and they're like, oh, I gotta buy silver. I gotta buy silver, and all of a sudden, you see this huge uptick of price or volume.
So let's go down some of the nitty gritty because of what I said. Explain it maybe better. So right now, my local dealer here is not buying silver. So I've got however many little half ounces here. I don't know what that is, $300, and I'll take it into him, and he says I'm not buying silver. Well, why is that? Well, because to make a market, you got to have the cash to buy the silver. I mean, that's what a market maker does. He makes a two-way market. He buys it and he sells it. If there's more sells than buys, he keeps buying. Well, if he has a credit, he has whatever his operating capital is. Let's say it's 50,000 for a coin shop, and it's a pretty big coin shop. And that's all that keeps his working capital, to keep the lights on, pay his employees, pay the insurance, everything else. Well, now I come in and I sell him $1 million worth of silver, and he writes me a check. Where did he get that money from? From his credit line. His bank said, you've got $4 million credit line with our bank. So now my buddy comes in and he sells $3 million worth of silver, and he writes a check. Now he's out of his credit line. He cannot write a check. He doesn't have any more credit available to do it. So now you walk in and say, hey, I only got $500. I need it. I need cash. I want to sell silver. Can't. I don't have the cash. So it's not like he's out of money. His credit line has been exhausted. And that's one coin shop. But he's not the only one that's in that situation. The other scenario is I buy it. I've got a ready buyer from me, so I don't really need a credit line. So you come in, I discount you $1 an ounce or whatever, sell it, and then I wholesale it to the refiner for $1, and I make $1 spread. So I'm making money on money. I'm making money on the silver. Except the refiner says, I'm not accepting anything that isn't 999 fine, because the smelters are backed up, the refiners are backed up, and I need to take in metal that all I have to do is melt it and re-pour it. So I pour 10 100-ounce bars into the pot, and I pour out 1,000-ounce bars, and I'm trying to get those over to London as fast as I can. And don't get in my way. Don't give me any 90%. Don't give me any sterling silverware. Don't give me any silver jewelry. Don't give me anything. So that's another part that's actually taking place right now. Now, I'm not saying it's every shop everywhere in the world. I don't know how much of the market is in that position, but for what I've been able to determine in the last 2 days, a fair amount are in that situation. So these are the subtleties that go on. So now, if you go into that shop and say, I want to buy silver, they'll sell it to you. What form? You want a 100-ounce bar, you want a kilo bar, you want constitutional coins, you want silver rounds, you want government issued coins. What do you want? I've got it. I'll sell it to you. So that's kind of where we sit on the retail side. On the wholesale side, obviously there's congestion between what London is required to put into deliverable bars and solve this problem versus what they actually have. So they've got to buy it and submit it to, the buyer of last resort, whomever that is, to get through this problem of not having what they promised, to somebody somewhere. in a timely manner.
How bad how in all the years you've been doing this, how bad is the situation we're in with silver?
Don't know. I think it's my gut feeling is it's bad enough to be, front page news more or less. But is it bad enough it can't be resolved? No, I don't think it's that bad. I think it will be resolved again, probably 2 weeks or less. Um, but it does put a different spin on the silver market because we're in a situation. It's almost like a catch 22. There's not enough silver, but there's too much silver. And what I mean by that corny statement is there's not enough silver. The real silver market is commercial bars. There's not enough commercial bars in the right place at the right time. Obviously, London, I keep referring to. But on the other hand, in the North American market, there's almost too much silver in the wholesale side, meaning so many North Americans have sold the silver back at 35, 40, 45, and maybe even 50 because they see a 14-year, 15-year all-time record high in nominal price, nominal, not inflation adjusted. I'm out, man. I bought my silver at $30 10 years ago. Finally got a profit. I had to pay 32 for it for the premium. It's now my coin shop is selling it, buying it back from me at a $2 discount. So he's giving me 48 for it or whatever. I'm out. I'm done. I'm tired of holding silver. I bought too much, or I need to pay a bill, or I just rather have the cash, whatever. So anyway, the point being, whatever the why is, why I'm selling is basically immaterial to the fact that there's been more sellers than buyers until very recently. And even very recently, I don't know how many new buyers are coming in the market at $50 silver. I mean, that sounds like a high price to people that don't understand the true value of silver. And they see that price and they think, well, I don't know. Did I miss it? Should I sell now? What's going to happen?
What would you tell somebody? I'm sure you've been getting a lot of calls. Should I be buying
Yeah.
this or should I?
Well, I would say if you don't have any, get in, but don't, put in your life savings in silver at 50. It might drop to 40. I don't know. I doubt it will go that low, but who knows? I would say just start a plan. And, if you've got, go shoot for that 5 or 10% of your savings rather than put it in the fiat in a bank, put it in the metal in your hand and just start buying, $50 a month or 100 a month or 500 a month, whatever your budget is. If you're really upset about, it's going to fall about, the whole thing's coming apart a week from Tuesday and you're that motivated, then buy half. Don't buy it all because if you put in your 10 grand in the bank and you put it all in the silver and the market falls, you're going to feel, you were had. But if you put in five and it takes off, you got a pretty good chunk and it's now at 60, 70. You might not buy on the way up, but at least you got a pretty good chunk. But if it falls back, it goes from 50 to 40 in this metaphor. You can rebuy the second half of 40, get an average price of 45 and feel pretty good about it. But to go all in, that's kind of been the biggest mistake I've heard over decades. People hear the silver story, they hear the gold story, they understand fiat, they go, oh my goodness, we're getting had by the money masters. I'm going to protect my savings with gold and silver. And they get excited and they get the first person they can find on the internet. They buy the wrong kind or the wrong way and they put in too much and they don't think it through. They make it an emotional buy where you really want to stay, the old adage, calm, cool, and collected and just buy it over time. So I'd say anyone that's not exposed to the silver market, especially if we go into an inflationary blow off, which we could, I'm not sure that we will, but it's sovereign wealth. It's better than Bitcoin. I mean, you don't need your phone to use it. You can use it, and it's very anonymous, whereas Bitcoin is traceable. So I think it's something that everyone should have exposure to. And if you don't have exposure, get some, but don't panic. $50 silver on an inflation adjusted basis. I think Mike Maloney just did an update on that. It's like, truly $12 in 1980 or whatever. So it does sound high. It's a big number. It's going to scare off some people, but again, on the basis of what does it provide, and it provides peace of mind in the monetary realm. What price is that? Well, that's kind of a priceless situation. So I would definitely recommend exposure to it, but do it smart. Don't panic. Do it over time, and this market will adjust whatever way it needs to. I would say higher, but I think there'll be less games played and maybe less exposure in the derivatives market that other than what we've had up to this point in time. That remains to be determined. But I think the powers that be, that the bullion banks have been exposed now. If they have any brains left, they should probably lower their risk from what it's been in the past.
Yeah, too much with people. They're always, they want to swing for a grand slam, and they don't look at it like, one of the things that I've gotten a little bit older is life is a game of inches, right? And whether you're investing or even show that I've built or building, it's always a game of inches. I mean, if I could figure out a way to go viral every week, I mean, who wouldn't
Yeah,
do that, right? But just
sure.
life just doesn't work. At least it doesn't work that way for me. I don't know. Maybe it does for some. But you see with people. Go ahead. Will you say something?
No, I just was agreeing with you. And, we have these ideas. There's so much, propaganda out there. I mean, to just settle down and be centered and be in the reality. And that's a rare event these days, especially with these, black screens that are guiding us. And, people are pretending what they're not. I mean, the authenticity meme is one that we need back. We need to be real with ourselves and others. I used to end my videos with be real, get real, buy real. Be real to yourself, to your own self be true. Get real stuff like silver if you're going to save, and maintain that. So I did digress, but I think that we have shifted from knowing the price of everything and the value of nothing. Your and my relationship has value because we get to know each other and we're providing a service for free to help others understand that we're in a system that really is pretty much leaned against us. It's based on a bunch of what we call propaganda, which is really basically lying to us, telling us what we want, telling us what we need, when we really should calm down and evaluate what really is needed and what's really wanted and what really is going to satisfy me, my family, my neighbors, my community, not only in the short term, but in the longer term. In other words, what's really valuable to us rather than I'm going to fix myself with the right meal or the right new shirt or the right car or the right, book or the right movie or whatever it is. We're looking outside of ourselves way, way, way too much. We need to look at the true value of what it means to be ourselves, to be that authentic self, to become something that, as Leonard Skinner says, what is it? Free, I can't think, but a simple man. Be simple. Know what your values are. There aren't 100 of them. There's a few of them. Honesty, integrity, living your word, doing these type of things that builds our communities. But if we're sitting there, you're wearing red and I'm wearing blue, and I don't like you based on a color that you're wearing, and that it's gotten down to be that trivial, and yet that's promoted by the media moguls to make sure that we don't stand together. They fear us standing together. They fear an American or a world population that stands up and knows what's the right thing, regardless of what color you are or what color you're wearing. They are in fear of that drastically. So they do everything they possibly can to disrupt that unity that could command great power if we were able to just drop our differences and look at what really unites us.
Well, and also I think that if you sit back right now and don't do anything and just leave your money in the bank, and I think you kind of alluded to this. I mean, this is being done by design, right? People are going to get crushed.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's, all fiat goes to zero. My favorite statement is this one going to absolute zero? No. There'll be a new system resurrected or proposed or put in place probably fairly soon. That's why I think this metals market's really only got a few years left. It's not that we don't have a 10-year deficit in silver going forward. We probably do. But I think the new system will be put in front of us, like it or not. Take it or leave it, you're going to be in it. in most cases. And when that happens, I think there'll be a assessment across the board on, what's a stock worth, what's gold worth, what's real estate worth, what's a corporation worth, what's your labor worth, what's a wheat worth. I mean, I think there's going to be a new way that the system is run on, probably some type of CBDC or digital currency, not necessarily from a bank, but maybe from a corporation or corporations.
That's where the big tech brothers are playing a part in all this, in my view. And
They are.
I'm gonna share this with you, and tell me what you think. But everybody wants to grab George Soros, right? George Soros, George Soros. I'm like, okay, but this guy's 95 years old. Why aren't we talking about Palantir? Why aren't we talking about PayPal? Let's talk about some of the common denominators in some of these corporations and how it benefits them to have Trump in office right now, based on what you and I have just spent a half an hour talking about.
Yeah, well, you're right on. I mean, I think the two best uh, investigative journalists, I don't know the right title because I like to give them one that is above and beyond that, but it would be Whitney Webb and James Corbett. I mean, both of them are stellar in my opinion. And, if I'm going to pick anyone to read or listen to, it'd be either one of them. And Whitney's really good at making the tie to Palantir. So is James. They both do an excellent job. And, kind of pulling the curtain back and not only pulling it back, but looking very carefully at the system and how it's really developed and how it's really run. And of course, the propaganda press is out there to mind bend us into believing that the system is, for our benefit, or it's going to be better, or it's for our own good. It's our own good that we're spying on you 24/7. And if you don't like it, then your credit score is diminished and you can't do, this function because you are anti-state, you're anti-government, you're a domestic T. I want to say the word. It's very, very sick that we have gone from a system that purportedly started with our God-given constitutionally secured rights where we were free people. And there was no such thing as hate speech. We could say whatever we wanted. If you didn't like it, you left the room, or you could argue, debate us, or whatever. So now we've gotten a system where we're an animal farm. All animals are created equal, except some animals are more equal than others. And now that we've gone down that road, we've lost the absolute integrity, or the absolute, I would call it, truth. That no animals are superior to others, but yet the system is run on a hierarchy of oligarchs and billionaire class that have the money masters and control things based on a script that we have to have in order to live. Basically, you can't live without money, unfortunately. I mean, you could maybe as an Amish, or in a tribal environment. For all practical purposes, almost everybody on the planet has to have money, what we call money, currency, in order to live.
Where do you see the price of gold going then? And before you answer that, I was listening to Frank Justra, posted a couple days ago with Daniela Camboni, and he says something that just stuck in my head. Be careful what you wish for. If you have gold and it goes to 10,000 an ounce, what kind of world do you think this will be if gold is going to just keep skyrocketing?
Well, I agree with Frank, and I know him a little bit. I mean, he reposts some of my Twitter stuff. I think he's very level-headed on the gold question, and he's right, because what gold is basically is a barometer. It's like a barometer, know anything about weather. And you see, that barometer drop heavily, as a seaman or an airman that there's a storm, and it's a big storm based on how far the barometer moved. And if that barometer moves to $10,000 gold, that means storm ahead or just ahead, which means disruptions maybe across the board. In fact, money will not solve the problem. People, oh, geez. So more disruptions in the supply chain, more disruptions in the quality of products, more disruptions on accountability and who's going to come to your house and do the repair, and they can't, whatever. So the whole system starts to break down. And so that's what it indicates, that you might have more quote unquote real money, gold, it's money. And yet, what can you buy with it? Well, if the stock market's frozen because of a cyber attack, and you want to buy XYZ stock because it's down 50% and you know it's selling under book value, but the exchange isn't open, what good does it do you? I mean, that's an extreme example. I'm not saying that's going to happen, although markets have been closed in the past. The point being is that money alone isn't going to solve it. It's what will that purchasing power do in the here and now. And if the system's broken, it's not going to do nearly as much as it does when the system is working properly. And we're moving toward what the physicists called entropy, more and more disorder rather than more and more order. And as we get more disorder in the system, more uncertainty in the system, that cushion of real wealth is good to have, but it doesn't guarantee you can fix something that's broken.
What do you think? I know I'm running out of time here with you, but what's the future of the United States in your view?
Well, I think we're going to go into, this is well thought, doesn't mean I'm right, but I put a lot of time. I think we will get to a point where we go back to the Bill of Rights, where the 10th Amendment has to do with the real power, which first of all, it resides in us. And we gave it some of that power up to a government, which we formed of the people, by the people, and for the people. Think about that statement. But I think it'll go back to the states. I think you'll see states like Texas might be an example, Idaho, Mississippi, that just says enough of your federal overlay on top of my state, I'm disregarding it. And we're going back to sound money. I mean, Texas has talked about the state depository and putting money in there and issuing a debit card or whatever. So I think you'll see a breakaway. Hopefully it's peaceful, and you may see states' rights reassert themselves, and the Fed's kind of put off by certain governors or whatever. You're already seeing that type of thing. Not that any state is succeeding from the union, but the ability of the federal government to come into a state with the National Guard and make it right, quote unquote, whatever right means in that context. So it's not unusual to see the end of empire start to break apart in that manner. And from what I know and believe, I think that's likelier than many people would agree with at this point in time.
How far off are we from that? Are we in it now?
Well, yeah, no one knows, but I think we've got about 2 years left, year and a half, before there's so much disruptions and dislocations between the political class, the people themselves, the left-right paradigm, and the inability to get what you need in a price that's affordable, or in a way that you can trust the system. I mean, if the money stops working, then who's going to drive the county bus? The money doesn't buy me anything. I'm not saying we're going there, but that's the trend. So we've gone through this before. It's not the end of the world. All the wealth stays in place. The bus driver's still there, so is the bus. Schools, houses, the crops, the oil, everything's still there. But you got to reboot the system into a repricing mechanism that makes sense, where the market determines the cost of a can of beans and a barrel of oil, rather than the structure that we have now.
What kind of pain do you think we'll experience, or at regular? Because regular people always suffer the brunt of all this. What do you think the level of pain will be?
Yeah, quite a bit. I think most of it will be psychological, won't be physical, although there'll be some disruptions in the big cities. But and it could be in rural areas, but not as much. It's sort of like alcoholism or drug addiction. You got to hit bottom before you can come back. Full bottom until you can start back up. And we at large, as a metaphor of society, the American people collectively have to hit bottom. and then come back up from that place. So that does mean probably further pain for a while. Still believe in the American spirit. I still think that there's enough of us, you being one of them, that's willing to just speak the truth, and it'll be worth it coming out the other side. However, their idea is to just basically keep things as they are, disrupt it the way they want to, with cyber attack, close down, whatever. I think a cyber attack is the more likely scenario. Whether it's legitimate or illegitimate, it will be propagandized as, they did it to us. Oh, the Russians closed our banks, or whatever they come up with. Sorry about that, but we're going to reboot the system with our new system. All you have to do is go to the post office and do a blood sample and a retina scan, and you're in.
David, where can people find you?
themorganreport.com. And please help me promote my documentary that goes into a lot of the issues we discussed here. silversunrise.tv. It's silversunrise, one word, .tv. It premieres on the 22nd of October, and it goes into the fear, control, and stress that the money powers have put on us worldwide and what we can do to fight back.
Social media?
Social media is at SilverGuru22 on X. Got over 100,000 there. Thank you, everyone. YouTube channel is The Morgan Report. X and YouTube. And then I am on LinkedIn. I think if you just type in David Morgan, you'll find me.
David, I appreciate you taking some time. I'm glad we were able to make this conversation happen. And congratulations on the documentary. I look forward to watching it and continuing to follow you along, and more conversations ahead.
Great. Well, I'd like to come back. Thank you for having me.
Mic drop.